welcome to BSF Recovery Team. Well, after our breakage out on the trail, we got it loaded up on the trailer, and now it's time to put it in the garage for some repair. As you can see, we got it out of the woods and we're in the garage. So now it's time to start the repair. First thing is to take it apart. All right, take the wheels off. Still got the run flats in them. They're heavy. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually take the brake caliper off. And we're going to hang that from the frame of the truck. That way we don't have to open up the brake lines. We can take the axle all the way out from underneath the truck. We won't have to deal with bleeding the brakes when we're done. There we go. A little cramped in this garage. Hopefully we'll be remedying that soon. Oh, so far everything's coming apart pretty easy. Thank God for never sees.
That's a lot of mud you're dropping.
Huh. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe my wife's been driving this truck through the mud.
I don't think so.
Okay, next is to drop the shocks out. Before we do that, we better put some jack stands underneath the axle though. Before we try and take the shock off of this side, that's all that's holding the axle underneath the truck. So we got to raise it up a little bit and get the jack stand underneath it. Otherwise we won't be able to pull the bolt out. Or if we do, the axle will drop to the floor. One more notch. There we go. All right, that shock is free. And that one's free. Drag link and springs. Driver's side spring is already half out of the truck, and the passenger side one isn't connected to the axle anymore. Ought to be pretty easy. Looks like we're going to need a swivel and an extension. Or if it wasn't lazy, we could do it with a wrench. Now here's the trick that some of you might not know. If I smack the end of the arm hard enough with a hammer, we'll distort the taper, that'll let the tie rod end come free from the tapered fit. But before we do that, we're going to put the nut back on a little ways. Make sure that we don't hit the threads. There we go. You can do that in a pinch if you don't have a pickle fork. Okay, we got to get our winch loose here, get our chain off. And it didn't fall to the floor. That's good. There we go. Now we should have enough slack. One more thing I forgot. We got to take the front drive shaft off. Okay. Take the drive shaft off. Squeeze under the truck here. All right, to keep from losing the caps off the U-joint, we're going to wrap it with tape. Okay, we should be able to let that hang there, and with tape around it, not worry about the caps falling off if we bump it. Don't want to forget the differential breather hose here. Got to take that off. I think that's been stuck on there for a while. There she comes. bolts, the nuts off, get this stuff out of the way. So we should be able to pull the bolt and get the axle out from under the truck. Towards you a ways there. Over this way. Down more. That'll work. All right, so here's the breakage, guys. Normally, on a GM Dana 60, these two bolts hold the inside of the spring instead of a U-bolt because the housing is too big and the spring pad, or the spring sits on the pad right here. There isn't any room for an actual U-bolt. So there's two bolts that go into the cast housing, and we've broken them before on this axle. So both of these holes have been repaired with a thread repair kit, and I added a third hole along with a third bolt, a little bit smaller, to help keep that together. And they broke again. So I'm thinking this time we're going to have to go to our spare housing. So that's the plan here, guys. We're going to go to our spare housing. We got to take the gears out of this one to put into our spare housing. Meanwhile, we're going to completely go through the new axle to make sure everything's up to snuff and ready to go. So we should have a trouble-free season, I hope. Okay, should we go get the spare axle while we got the Bobcat fired up?
Well, that would make sense unless you're going to rebuild this.
No, we're going to switch to the spare axle, but we got to pull the gears out of this one to put into the spare axle.
Well, let's go do it. Time to go digging in the axle pile. And as it would have it, it's at the bottom.
so we got our old axle housing here, our new axle housing, or new used axle housing, which actually happens to be the axle that was in the replacement tow truck when I got it. If you remember back on my videos, to save time, I didn't disassemble this axle and switch to the 513 gears that are in here. I just took this whole axle and put it in the truck. Now it's time to take the 513 gears out of here and anything else I need to build that axle housing for the tow truck. And I got one little surprise for you. Since we're switching out the gears and we're going to have both axles all apart, I did finally spend the money.
And buy me a tool?
Oh, you got a tool not too long ago. But I spent the money and I bought the E-locker that I've been wanting to put in the front axle for a long time. So, we have our install kit here with the shims and the bearings.
That's not a deal.
And we have our, oh my God, it's heavy, our Eaton E-locker. The Eaton E-locker will allow us to have an open differential when we want, so it'll be still easy to steer and maneuver around in the woods, but when we need it to have a posi traction and spin both front tires, we hit a button, magnet energizes, and locks up the differential. Shall we open it up and take a look?
Yeah.
Look at that, we got a wiring harness. Instructions, might need those.
I thought men didn't use instructions. Like you guys don't get lost.
I want to make sure that I do everything just right. Oh!
Is it heavy?
It is heavy and it's packed in this box. Oh. There it is, guys.
She's so pretty.
There's the little magic wires right there. Makes it all work. All right, well, join us for our next video where we start to take the axles apart. We'll rebuild everything in the new axle and install our E-locker. Thanks for watching, BSF Recovery Team. Keep wheeling, be safe out there, and maybe we'll see you in the woods.